associated. And then after that point, I'll keep a log of anything that changes. I don't want to give you numbers that day, and then 4 months from now, something's changed drastically. I'll have detailed lines. Might not give them all to you because they could be very minuscule, but anything big will be tracked, and we'll see where things have changed from spring to when the budget is actually looked at for adoption and approval. I have a potential review of approval of 17-18 budget revisions on there. We have not paid for the buses yet, so I have not put together a list of budget revisions that we'll want to do. We have to do a budget revision at DPI, and then we'll also do it in Skywork. But there's a couple other ones that might go on there as well. And then preliminary notices of non-renewal for professional staff contracts will be done that night also.
So we'll have a personnel committee meeting prior to then, so to vet out any of those staffing changes. So I have on my list that on the April 2nd, I will set up a policy committee meeting for the month of April, and then we'll have to have a personnel committee meeting between April 2nd and the 16th. And we might, if it's appropriate, we might have a closed session then on April 16th to talk about any reductions beforehand as a whole group, and then come out and take action. So we'll see. So there's the part where we just need to play it safe based upon numbers, where we're just in that spot where it's just, if we grow, we have less. If we shrink, we have more. So we'll forecast out, and we'll just try to give ourselves, make sure we feel comfortable with the recommendations that are coming already on April 16th then to the board. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. Oh, I know, when Ryan, I just want to point out, so preliminary notice of non-renewal, those are for contracts that actually qualify for benefits. So for part-time jobs, let's say it's like 50%, that actually doesn't qualify for benefits. So by state statute, that does not need a preliminary notice of non-renewal. I have handled those out in the past anyways, just to give more notice to people, but they're not required. So really, it's kind of a point of order, just so you're aware. 75% or above for professional staff, teachers, we have to meet a very specific timeline. So there's no unions, negotiations, but this is state statute stuff. Their contract, they have the right to have that. For the support staff members, they get letters of appointment. That can be handled at any point in time.
What is the specific date yet?
April 15th.
Okay, that's what, 16th?
May 15th.
April, May.
Preliminaries.
Preliminary, we need to do it 30 days in advance. So actually, we'll make sure we're good. We'll have to set up a special meeting if we're off by a day, just so you know. You can't miss the window.
No, you can't win.
Right, exactly. So I actually have the bulletin on my desk. So at that April 2nd meeting, we'll make sure if for some reason we have to have an extra one, we will do so.
Thank you, Ryan. Yep. Any unfinished business? New business, we have resolution 1718207, approval of co-curricular volunteer coaching agreement for the spring sports.
Can we do all of them at once or individually?
No, you can do them all together.
I'll make a motion.
By Norm, second by Joe.
On place layers, I see there's guys for the Thresso, but is that run through us, or how is it run through?
It's a combined,
Do they get contracts with Thresso too then?
you know, Joe?
I don't know for sure. I think our practice has been that anybody who's coaching our kids is board approved.
Right.
So I don't know if they're required in Lamira, for example. That's the other.
Because they're Lamira, almost half the kids there, and I noticed they're all Lamira residents that are.
I am. One of the things as far as the volunteer coaches goes, so Richard, our policy advisor, comes in and we're talking about this, and he said, well, why are you doing that? Was the question. Because they're not contracts. They literally are, we're giving them authorization to work with kids. Oh, we can do a background check, I got that. So the question is like, this is the practice that we do here, which I think, me personally, I would like it if, and Joel hasn't even heard me say this, but how about at the end of the year banquet, all the volunteers are invited to attend, and we honor them and recognize them there and make a big deal out of it. And then instead, we can just give you a list of the volunteers. You know, because that is, but this is a
Sure.
standard thing you've been doing, so it's like, okay, do you want to keep doing that? Because we can. But in the end, I think it'd be more important to say, hey, thank you so much for volunteering. We're going to celebrate you and recognize you. So
That sounds good.
I just dropped that on
Yeah.
Joe right now.
I kinda like seeing them on
I'm fine
the
with that.
paper.
But we can
Kinda
do
like
it,
that.
but we can have it be a report. Absolutely, Joe, what I like is like, to me, rather than scrolling all the names,
Right,
how about we
all the
put a
names.
name, here, these are the people who are
One page
volunteering for the
paper.
fall season.
Right.
Get them in the paper, acknowledge it, hey, really appreciate that,
I have no
versus,
problem with that.
one by
Just
one.
that the name does come up to the public. There might be.
that might be, I think it'd be more available in the public by doing that than versus one at a time. I think to be more mindful and intentional for that, so.
Might even get more people to come and volunteer.
Well, I like the idea, so in other districts, we had an end of the year volunteer event. And I know at our buildings, we can have that, but like, as far as coaching, because you see so much volunteerism. And they do it because they love working with kids and the sport, you know, so. Well, I would say, yes, tonight, if you would approve it that way, and then we can talk about future and how to handle
Sure.
it. And
Sure.
Does this approval that we're doing here have any legal
No,
responsibilities, protection for doing it?
I actually asked our policy advisor on that, and he was very indifferent. He actually recommended having them come in one big lump group and for recognition. And I thought, well, I like that, but I like having a big event and having them come for recognition more than that. So like, if you look out there, hi guys, we got a few people out there tonight, but recognizing them in front of 150, 300 people sounds more exciting than the group we have tonight. No discredit there whatsoever.
No, I think that's a
Yeah.
good idea. I'm just concerned whether there's
Sure, I'll double
any
check
kind
that
of
too.
legal
I don't think so.
responsibility.
I don't think so because I haven't had volunteer coaches come before. So, but I will absolutely, before we change that, we'll make sure we dot our i's and cross our t's. We won't change something if it's gonna cause a problem. In the meantime, we can still have a extra recognition of them.
sure.
Those are kind of two separate things, actually.
Yes.
Any questions on the volunteer coaching agreements? Nord?
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion carried 7-0.
It's a good thing coming to me tonight. You never know what comes out next.
Resolution 1718208, approval to hire.
So moved.
Who's that? Motion by Joe, second by Dave. Assistant track coach.
Yeah, I recommend the hire of Aneshka Mozio, Ms. Mozio, at the middle school. She's come forward and expressed an interest. She hasn't coached track previously, but has been active in her previous employment as a worker at track meets, so she's familiar with the sport. I think it's, there's a couple things that make this a very valuable hire. One is that she's a teacher in the building with the middle school kids, and that day-to-day contact with kids is always invaluable. And the other point, or the other piece that's really important is we have three coaches at the middle school level, and the other two are males. And so having a female coach as part of that program, I think, is also really valuable to solve some of the issues that come with working with female athletes. Some of the logistical things that need to be taken care of that way. So I'm very excited that she was willing to step forward and take on that role.
Any questions for Joel on this approval to hire? Or Anishka? Joe?
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Motion carried 7-0. Resolution 1718209, approval to hire Valerie Christian for JV2 head volleyball coach for next season. So motion by Dave,
Second.
second by Moore.
So you might wonder, why am I bringing you a fall coach now? And the answer to that is because last fall I didn't have a JV2 coach until the third day of the season. So I've got a willing person who is an employee in our district as our nurse consultant and also is coaching our 7th grade volleyball team right now and doing a great job, I might add, with that. She has background in coaching volleyball. She coached at the sub-varsity level over in Oregon previous to coming to Mayville. So when she expressed interest in knowing that my JV2 coach from this past year is not able to come back next year because of her work constraints, absolutely. You know, we'd have a plan going forward, and having a person locked up in that position is a good idea. And this hire is made with the support of Coach Persia as the head coach of the program.
I did see it as a little strange as something next year, but that makes total sense.
Let's get her done.
Yeah. Any questions on this resolution? Dave?
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion carried 7-0. Resolution 1718210, approval of Start College Now MPTC course applicants for the first semester of next year. Motion? Dave, second by? North. Bob?
Yes, thank you. Lee brought up course options earlier, and those were approved, and those come to us each semester right before the semester starts. We have a 2-week turnaround to get those done prior to the semester starting. Youth Options is the program that students can access college courses as well, but Youth Options has changed. So every semester I would bring forth Youth Options in the past. And there's a deadline in October for the spring semester, and then in March for the fall semester coming up for the coming school year. So the Youth Options changed through state statute to Start College Now, which is the Moraine Park or 2-year technical college program, and the Early College Credit Program, ECCP, which is the 4-year college offerings to students within high school to get college credit before graduating high school. So they will essentially earn high school credit for taking these courses, as well as gain a transcript for the college and obtain college credit as well to get a head start on college. So we have 4 students, 2 students asking for courses through the Moraine Park system through the Start College Now program. 1 student is asking for 1 course, and the second student is asking for 3 courses. And then we have 2 students as well asking for courses through the Early College Credit Program. 1 student is asking for 1 course. Another student is asking for 2 courses to be taken this fall. Each course was reviewed to see if it matched any of the courses that we have. We went as far as going to the instructor to look at the description from the college course handbook, as well as compared to the courses they teach. These are new courses that go above and beyond the courses we teach, and there's a recommendation that the board approve each of these for the 4 students involved here.
Any questions for this first approval of the Start College Now course applicants? Dave?
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion carried 7-0. Now we have resolution 1718211, approval of Early College Credit Program, the ECCP. Motion by Norm. Second by Dave. So what did you say, there were 2 for here?
There are 2 for the Early College Credit Program, so they'll be taken through the UW system. One of them that's new to me is the UW online courses. In the past, I've included costs with these, and I would let you know what all the credits would cost as a whole, not for each individual student, as well as I added a 10% book or material fee as well. I don't have the cost for the UW online courses. I'm assuming they're a little less than the face-to-face courses. When I get that cost, I will present that and share that with you so you know what the costs are for the coming fall, including a 10% estimated charge for books and materials.
So the rule is that they have to pass a certain grade point or grade to get.
Right, they have to get a C or better in order to not pay for the course. If they, well, actually, I think it's a passing grade. If they fail the course, then they will owe us the money back, as well as the cost for the materials, the books, texts.
Any questions on this resolution? North?
Aye.
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 Aye. Motion carried 7-0. I'm gonna come up to our clerk, Joe, for each of these, and just highlight it for signatures required. And I can get those up again. Okay, resolution 1718212, approval of 2018-2019 school district calendar. Motion? So moved. Joe, second by Costa. Jim? Explain the calendar.
What you have in front of you is about 2 months' worth of work, starting with a committee consisting of 3 teachers and myself. Met a couple of times and began to lay out the template for this year's calendar. It does not change much from one year to the next, but we wanted to try to be creative to make the best use of the time we have in support of kids and teachers. That calendar was then brought to the administrative team, and then to our core team that Scott's referenced, which has representatives from each building. So it has the 192 teacher days that we expect, 177 student days. We did add a student day this year. So if there's any questions, Scott or I can attempt to address them. This does not reflect anything that the buildings may want to try to do in terms of start time, to give assistance to kids before school, or to have teachers be able to have team time around our schedule as well. Scott and I ran the minutes for the calendar, so we're well within the minute requirement for the state at all three buildings. Sometimes that is the calls into question. We ran those minutes today.
Or if you can have 13 snow days and you're okay.
But as we go through this, I do want to take the time to thank Patty, who was our park view rep, Patty? Karen Halsema and Chris Pasick, who are our original committee that took it on to the big group. So thank you to those 3 to start the conversation.
Any questions on the calendar for next year? Joe? Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Motion carried 7-0.
Thank you.
So we have resolution 1718213, approval of a donation agreement.
So moved.
Motion by Dick, second by Norm. You wanna
Sure.
explain?
So we are very fortunate that Earl and Joanne Polzin have donated to the school district stock. And that stock, the intention of the stock is to go towards the Earl and Joanne Polzin Scholarship Fund. I've had some amazing conversations with Joanne. She's a Uper like me. So we've talked about, she actually grew up in the same exact town that my family's from. And I think that my mom might have lived in the same exact subdivision that her family's from up there. So just side note. But it's been great to get to meet Joanne and just their philanthropic nature and giving back to the students from this community is to be 100% commended. I mean, it really is exceptional. So it's stock, and the stock right now, I think John went online, it's worth about $100 a share. So this may be one of additional gifts to the school district, but this is the one that we'll be talking about tonight. And it does have specific guidelines that our legal counsel worked out with their legal counsel over the past few weeks on the expectations for the scholarship. So, and there's a lot of text here, so I was just trying to make sure that I find it. So one, you have a donation agreement, and this donation agreement, what it pretty much says is that the district can receive the gift of stock. And then from there, we have to secure a stockbroker, and it might actually be the bank where the funds are directly coming from, to help go now and sell it. So we can accept stock as a gift with the intention that we're going to sell it to help fund the actual scholarship. If it would have been sold in advance, well, what the district would be receiving would be significantly less. So as a public entity, we're not going to be paying taxes on the stock when it goes for sale. So there's a resolution that our legal counsel helped us to write up. 2 is the donation agreement, and then you have an Exhibit A, that is the actual stock itself with Fidelity National Information Services. And then the second part here is the last part is the scholarship, and what is the intention of it. So they suggest 1 scholarship each year, which means we'll have no more than 1 going as you proceed that we will have more than 1 going into future years, okay? So we suggest the scholarship be $5,000 per year for 2-year technical school or for 4 years for college. So when that individual receives it, it's a $20,000 scholarship that they're receiving from the Joanne and Earl Posey scholarship. So if they're going to a 4-year, so that's amazing.
So 10 or 20.
So, yep, correct. If they're going to a 2, then it's, but they're not delineating the difference from a 2 to a 4. And they're also going to keep it open based upon the applications who it's going to go to. So they're not saying every year it's a 4 or every year it's a 2. They're saying submit and meet the criteria for the application, and we will go through it as a committee and make a decision on who gets it.
You're still gonna be in charge of who gets it.
They will be, right. So other part on here, so financial needs should be the primary, but not necessarily the only consideration for the scholarship. So the recipients have a minimum of a C, 2.0 grade point average. It'll be paid at the start of 2nd semester upon proof the student is enrolled. And this is, all of this is pretty standard language that are other scholarships. And we do have other scholarships where we are the financial entity. There are others where they give the gift, the scholarship, and the dollars never actually are a part of our hands. Like it's all outside of us. Well, these dollars are school district owned in a fund specifically for this. So the 2.0 GPA or in college, they have to maintain in college. No, recipients should have a minimum C or 2.0 GPA average for all high school semesters. And then, is there a GPA requirement for college?
I did not see any. No.
Okay.
Just say the scholarships will be paid to this recipient's school account.
Yep, so they have to bring their receipt in that they,
So it's not
actually,
paid
here
to
you
them.
go, correct. That's a lot, most scholarships are like that, especially if we're talking about that kind of a dollar amount.
Mhm.
I'm just gonna stick my nose in it as well. If it's paid directly to the school, it can impact financial aid.
You have no say in that, sir. Like, these are their terms, this is a
Okay.
legally binding agreement, so that's for them to figure out. So this was hashed out between 3 different entities. And when you get a gift of $100,000 for a scholarship for a foundation, you're gonna be super ecstatic about it, is what it comes down to. So it's, when John St. Peter worked out all the details, he said congratulations, because that really is what it comes down to. So this will be an amazing resource to support a student from Mayville High School for many years. And this is, what I heard is this may just be the start. So, but this is an amazing gift.
Any questions on this donation agreement? Dick?
Aye.
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 Motion carried 7-0. Express a very
For sure, absolutely.
My wife is probing with her tomorrow morning, I'll tell her to say thanks.
Yeah.
I did it good.
But really, very good people too. Just fun to work with.
Any old business? Additional citizen comments?
almost held off, but you got me on that last subject.